Hey everyone, Carl here with Littleroot Lessons, bringing you a very cool video this week as we are talking Year 2 tier lists. This is for Pokemon Unite. With the Year 2 update, the map has changed. There's a lot of cool balance changes to things like Mr. Mime and some other cool bug fixes in here and there. Unite moves overall got an entire rework, so there's certain Pokemon that are doing really well, and some Pokemon that aren't doing too hot. We're going to kind of go over everything today, how I feel about the format and things like that now that I've played with it about for a week or so. Disclaimer here, these are all my opinions. Do not take these as facts. If you like a certain Pokemon and it is ranked lower on my tier list, that is mainly because that is my opinion, how I have played with them in the format. Take everything with a grain of salt. Before we get started on all that, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff for us. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment down below what your favorite Pokemon to play in Unite is, and currently the new patch. Currently, I've been really enjoying a lot of the Talonflame gameplay. We'll talk about Talonflame probably a significant amount here in a little bit, because I think Talonflame is secretly OP right now. So, starting things off, who should we start with? We should probably start with an S, right? Something that is heads and shoulders above everything else, and my first S pick is Glaceon. One of the big things Glaceon was good at before was dealing a lot of damage with its Icy Wind, Freeze, Dry combo. At the tail end, before the Year 2 patch dropped, we figured out a good crit build with Icy Wind, and it really is powerful in this big map where you almost can always have your Unite move up after a few camp clears. It almost always is dealing significant damage to an enemy. It helps you clear super fast because you can just burst down. You have secure in the central area and on the regular lane maps. And so Glaceon, easy S tier pick, probably would be argued to be the best jungle in the game right now, just for the sheer fact that you can get level 4 and start putting pressure immediately on the map. That is what Glaceon does best. You can start rotating the lanes, and if your jungle is not already level 5, you're going to have the numbers advantage and you're going to be able to snowball a lane pretty easily. Keeping on the central area theme here, I'm probably going to knock out Absol, Gengar, Gardevoir, Dragonite, things like that. I'm trying to think of other centers that are popular. Cinderace, Decidueye. Figured if we knock these centers out all here in a row here, we'll kind of be able to do it by roll a little bit and kind of give you an idea on where I feel things are at. Absol and Gengar, both of these very melee style assassin Pokemon, I think are both really solid A+s right now. One of the big things the new map gave us was a whole lot more bushes. There's a lot of places to hide, a lot of places to sit and wait for the unsuspecting carry to walk by, going from bot lane to top lane or going from bot lane to a buff to get farm. And if you can catch them out, you delete them stat quickly. And that's one of the things that these three Pokemon in particular do really well, is you have a delete button essentially with your combo. Beyond that, for jungles, I think Gardevoir is probably around the C or the D. Unfortunate for Gardevoir, you are very slow. Your movement is really lacking, and because of the fact that there's Pokemon like Absol, like Gengar, like Glaceon that have very high mobility and are able to run around you and kind of outmaneuver you, you have to be almost 100% on point 100% of the time, and that's a very tall ask on a map that is not as 5v5 brawly, I feel like, as Remote Stadium was. Dragonite, I would probably put an A-. Hyper Beam plus the Dragon Dance fix means that you're not securing 100% of the time anymore. You're not a must play, must ban kind of Pokemon like we saw in competitive a lot of the time. But I think that Dragonite having extra experience on the map means that you can see lane Dragonite do more things later on in the season. Whereas right now, Central Area Dragonite kinda just doesn't have the greatest secure compared to Glaceon. Decidueye, unfortunately, I think Decidueye got the raw end of the deal here when it comes to the whole patch. You really struggle because you can't always see what you're aiming at. You are literally a sitting owl in this case, waiting for a fight to happen. If you are lucky and don't get caught, you can do significant things in a fight, but most of the time you're literally going to get soloed out of the game. Cinderace, I think, is also a solid A-. It's a decent jungle Pokemon still because you still have really good mobility. You're going to have Pyro Ball up a whole lot of the time here, so you'll be able to continually use your Night move, use your other skills, kind of roam around the map and apply pressure. But I think you just kind of lack some of the secure potential like Glaceon would have and things like that. Another jungle Pokemon we saw in the last patch, Greninja. I think Greninja's still going to see play. You have a good mobility. You're kind of into that melee assassin thing that Absol and Gengar are doing, but you rely a lot on resets and catching people out, and I think this map's going to be a little bit harder for Greninja to kind of push a lead advantage because you evolve early and there's more experience. You're not going to be able to shut people out like you could with Greninja before. Stealing Pokemon isn't as viable a strategy as it was in Remote Stadium just because there's more experience on the map. So Greninja players might struggle a little bit, but I think it's still going to be a perfectly fine Pokemon if you're trying to grind rank or playing competitive. Let's knock the last two speedsters out of the way here. Zeraora, it's kind of a weird situation, right? Like, you'll see people put Zeraora here, put it here. I personally don't think Zeraora's B. While yes, the more experience on the map means you hit level 9 easier, I think your just overall playstyle doesn't fit the theme of what the map's trying to do. You have great 1v1, but you also have great 5v5. If it's like an odd number situation, you kind of struggle because you're either all in on one target or you're really hoping to spread damage across squishy members, and if there happens to be a Mr. Mime or a Blastoise or something that's a little bit bulkier on the other side, you don't tend to win fights as often. So I think Zeraora is probably fine at B. Talonflame, though, we're going to put up here in the A+ here. I don't think it's quite as good as Glaceon, but I think what Talonflame does specifically is the counter jungle thing, where you're able to run to the other side of the map, steal an early buff, get out of dodge, go score a goal somewhere, get an attack weight stack, which boosts your move speed, which lets you kind of snowball into this goal getter monster of a Pokemon. And I think we'll start to see that more in rank, and we'll start to see people adjust to it a little bit more, and we'll see Talonflame drop off a little bit. But I think right now, especially early year 2, Talonflame is something you really need to be prepared for and you really need to watch out. Other counter junglers, Greedent was kind of on that counter jungling plan for a while. One of the downsides, though, is Greedent really needed a whole lot of help to get across the map early, so you'd play like Floatstone, maybe some yellow emblems, and while the Floatstone changes and we have more yellow emblems now, I don't know if it's enough for Greedent now that the map is just wider than it was before. So I think Greedent by far is probably going to be kind of relegated to a B or a C tier, like a B-, I would call it. Definitely can still do stuff in a fight, but you're not like the counter jungling opponent goal to opponent goal menace that you were in Remote Stadium, or like we saw at Worlds this past event. Now that we got most of the centers out of the way, let's look at some lane options here. So first off, I want to talk about Delphox. I think Delphox is probably one of the stronger casters right now in the game. Having Flame Charge as a mobility option to kind of push yourself across the map pretty quickly with good cooldown, plus being able to deal massive damage with your Unite move that's almost always up, being able to splash damage around with Mystical Fire or Fire Blast, whichever one you're running. I think this overall bears good things for Delphox, especially since you're not like trying to get to level 9. You're at early level 6 Evo, and you can just snowball a good lead from that point, while your opponents like the Venusaurs, the Blastoises, the things that evolve at 9 are going to struggle a little bit more once they hit, while they're on their way to that breakpoint. Speaking of the level 9 Evos, I think Charizard is probably a solid A or A-. Is it better than Dragonite? I'm not sure. The Unite move changes did kind of hurt it a little bit. I think it's good still, but it's not fantastic like it was before the Unite change moves. That was the big thing, was you got so many extra stats out of your Unite move, and now that that's kind of gone, you're really a one-trick kind of grab the Pokemon, throw them down, spit your fire, Unite, whatever for a little bit, but then once you land, you're really in trouble because you have no kind of actual like escape. And so I think Charizard's going to be fine. You're going to see it because it's Charizard. It's people's favorite Pokemon, right? And I think it's okay at best. The other parts of the Kanto trio here, Venusaur, probably a solid A+, has real good Secure and Solar Beam. I've been seeing a ton of Sludge Bomb, Solar Beam builds here lately. If you aren't into the whole Secure thing, there's still Petal Dance Giga Drain. You can literally just run people down even after the cooldown emblem changes. So I think Venusaur is still really, really good. Blastoise was a solid A- tier. This is probably one of the better defenders, I feel like. Being a kind of skirmishy defender is going to be good in these situations, whereas the big team fight defenders, kind of like how Mamoswine and Snorlax kind of feel like, I think Blastoise is going to be just a little bit better. Your Unite move is going to be up more often for Blastoise, which is always a good thing. It's a very powerful Unite move, being able to just AoE knock everybody up in the air. The Water Spout and Rapid Spin build's really good. The Hydro Pump Surf build's really, really good. Like, I don't think there's a wrong way to build Blastoise. The problem is there's so much damage on the other side staring you in the face that you kind of have to push away from the big damage builds what we used to see in year one. And now we're kind of in the position of, I have to build tanky. I'm not going to do a ton of damage with my Unite move, but my goal is to be disruptive now. Some other defenders we can talk about here. Mamoswine. I love Mamoswine to death. It's one of my favorite defenders. I don't think it's great right now. Mamoswine thrives in 5v5s. It thrives in team fights. It wants to engage all the time, and that just isn't what's happening on the map anymore. There's no Dreadnoughts to rotate to, really. You still have rotations and whatnot for like second Regieleki or third Regi trio down at the bottom, but early on, when Mamoswine really shines in those early fights, it's not a thing anymore. You'll see split fights between top and bottom of people trying to take both objectives at the same time, or you'll see people just not fight at all and go do other things on the map because there's just so much to do. So unfortunately, I feel like Mamoswine's not up to snuff right now in terms of being a defender. If you're wanting to play defenders, like I said, Blastoise is a great option. Other defenders, I think Snorlax is a fine option too. It's one of those B tier defenders. You'll see it because it's real good at stopping the Rayquaza scores. One of the best ways I found to interact after you lose a Rayquaza is to throw up your block and just push them off the point. Because while Score Shield may not stop you from being hit by scoring through damage, Block pushes you off the goal and interrupts you that way. So I think Snorlax probably actually could be an A- defender. Probably in between Charizard and Dragonite. Probably do it this way. Yeah, something like this. Snorlax is a great option, I think. Blastoise is a good option. Snorlax, I think, is going to really need the team to work around it, though, because you really don't have the time to be dealing damage as a Snorlax anymore. Other defenders, we can talk about Slowbro a little bit. I think Slowbro is kind of fine as a defender. You were really good early in lane just with Scald pressure and things like that, but now that people can kind of just leave lane and go do other stuff and not have to sit there and try to outlast hit a Scald Slowbro, your pressure's kind of gone. Same thing kind of goes with like a Crustle. Crustle's good at the whole counter jungling thing, but you are what you are. You are a counter jungle, like only have to focus on goal scoring outside of team fights. A real good Crustle will land really good X scissors and things like that, but overall I think Crustle it's there, but it's not going to be like super competitive play. Trevenant's on my short list of defenders that belong in the A+ to S region. I think Trevenant low-key got a insane buff here. One of the best soloing defenders in the game, being able to use Curse and Horn Leech to just bully and push people around. You can heal pretty much, like it takes 2 or more people to take out a Trevenant. Otherwise, the Trevenant is going to drain tank you all the way through, and you're going to come out worse for wear than the Trevenant ever was. We've talked about the defenders and got them out of the way. Let's talk about supports. Wiggly got a buff, I guess you want to call it. It's like a lateral buff. I don't know if it's an exact buff. Double slap hits scaling, I think it was better, but now it's physical instead of special, which is weird. I'm not sure how that works. Rollouts indicator is better too, so you kind of get to play like the bank shots and see where you're aiming. I think that's really cool. I think overall though, in the roles of support, I think Wiggly's probably B. I think there's much better options as support, which we'll talk about the main offender here in a minute. But I think there's much better options as support. Eldegoss gives you movement speed, but outside of the movement speed, like just play X speed, right? Like you'll get around the map fast enough without the Eldegoss. Just play Floatstone or X speed, and you won't need to worry about having Eldegoss on your team. Blissey, I think Blissey's still good. I think Blissey's probably A-. The healing on soft boiled got reduced a significant amount, so it's much harder to use. But like it's much harder to reliably heal now. You're not the super health tank that you were before. So overall, you'll still see Blissey in competitive play, especially if they take Mime down a couple pegs. But I think Blissey is not the end-all be-all that it was in year 1. Hoopa's fine. Hoopa's in a weird spot. Okay, so let's talk Hoopa for a second. So they did some things to the maps that make Hoopa less powerful. One of those things being the center, the respawn point doesn't heal as fast anymore. What that is when you would hyperspace hold back to spawn and then come back, by the time you would come back, you would be fully healed before you were essentially locked into the spawn area and had to walk back. Now it takes a little bit longer for you to heal all the way, so now you're coming back at about half or 3/4 HP rather than full, and that's a real big hit to what Hoopa was trying to do. On the opposite side of that, you still have really good positional mobility back and forth. You can rotate top, bot, wherever. You can be in a flat area, anywhere in a flash. The other problem with that is the 5v5 fights aren't a thing anymore, right? Hoopa overall is probably a low B, high C, which is weird to say. They've unintentionally nerfed Hoopa to the point where it's not needed anymore. Conversely, Mr. Mime is nuts. They took and unintentionally nerfed Hoopa without changing anything on Hoopa. They've changed Mr. Mime to be more in line with support, and now it's nuts, right? Mr. Mime was like I think hidden strong going into Worlds at the end of year 1, and when they swapped guard swap to power swap, I don't know why they changed the name, but now the fact that you actually heal, it's just nuts, right? You can tether to an opponent and you heal off that. You can tether to an ally and you'll both heal. It's weird. The fact that the tether for power swap doesn't fall off unless you are too far apart is a really big deal. Like, everyone's looking at Mr. Mime and it's like, oh, they nerfed the healing on it. It's not going to be that great. No, it's still really good. The whole issue of Mr. Mime is the fact that the tether stays forever. If you can't get away from the Mr. Mime, you're never gonna get away from it. Like, it'll be on you until you're dead, or at least knocked out and sent back to spawn. The psychic buff was a real good change too to kind of go with it, so it just ended up making this perfect storm of this is now the best mime thing to be doing. You're really naturally bulky, you have a very disruptive Unite move that can be up at least 3 to 4 times a game depending on how your game's going. Mr. Mime, insane. Don't sleep on it, pick it up, play it now before they take it and nerf it again. Let's see here, what else we got here? We got all-rounders and attackers left for the most part. Let's get these kind of sorted here. We can talk about all-rounders here because I think all-rounders overall got a real big buff. The extra like hidden parts of the map, the bushes, all the rotations, the one-on-one 1v2 fights we're gonna have all the time, I think benefit all-rounders the most. Most all-rounders I think are going to be A- to S. The first one being, let's talk about Machamp here. Machamp got a slight nerf to Dynamic Punch, but Machamp still does Machamp things. You still run rampant with Dynamic Punch, you're just not getting super burst, you're still just burst, right? You're still going to do your crit thing. Machamp's still really good. The submission, no one played submission Machamp to begin with. I don't know what they thought was going to happen there with submission. Like, we're going to change how the speed works and give it a lateral slide on the buff scale. Doesn't matter. Machamp's still Machamp. Play the heck out of it. It's still really good. Buzzwole, I'm sorry, but SmackDown Leech Life, it wasn't enough. You're cool, but the fact that you're not 5v5 team fighting anything anytime soon, you have no secure when it comes to these objectives. You're such a kiteable Pokemon right now. T-Tar is the same way. I think both of these guys are super kiteable. The benefit for T-Tar is T-Tar has Ancient Power still. Ancient Power still busted even after the nerf. But Buzzwole, it wasn't enough to fix it. The problem with Leech Life is you're able to get away from it, right? It's not that the damage wasn't good. It's not that SmackDown wasn't doing its job. It's the fact that you could get away from Leech Life with the press of a button. Or your opponent could knock you out of Leech Life, or you were just off by a pixel and you didn't get to give him the bear hug, right? So Buzzwole C makes a lot of sense. T-Tar A-, high B probably. It's still not fantastic. It's good at the end game, and the extra experience on the map helps T-Tar a lot, but it's just one of those things where you really have to have the support around T-Tar to make it work. You have to have those Blissies, those Mr. Mimes, those things to keep you healthy, because you just die in team fights when your opponents are higher mobility than you. Serena's not quite S anymore. I think it's solid A+ though. I think it's a real strong Pokemon. As the meta and lanes get figured out, I think we'll start to see solo lanes more, and I think Serena's going to be great there. Another one I think will be good is maybe even Garchomp might be a Pokemon we see in solo lanes in the future. The extra experience on the map means that you hit Gabite more consistently now, rather than having to maybe steal a jungle camp or something. You have extra experience to get on the map. So I think as the meta develops, I think Garchomp's going to be hidden, this like super competitive Pokemon. Azumarill, I love this Pokemon to death. People know that I love just sitting around whopping people with Aqua Tail. It's not good. You're such a low mobility, low range all-rounder. You have to like play Whirlpool and play rough and have your Unite move to even do anything. And if you don't have all three of those things at the same time, you just die. There's no fighting with it. You're just gone. Lucario, solid A-, I think. Not as good as it once was, so stacking Lucario is not going to be as strong unless you're like in the bottom. Maybe like you could do like support Lucario defender and have Lucario kind of be the carry out of bottom lane, but overall I think it's not going to be the best solo laner anymore because there's just more experience to gather on the map. Lucario was great at stealing last hits and kind of gatekeeping experience, and with the extra experience on the map, I think Lucario's not going to be able to succeed as often as it should. The last all-rounder is Aegislash. Aegislash is another one of these A-. You'll see it a lot, more in the center, I think, than anything else, because a roaming Aegislash is really, really good, but I think it kind of just is kind of played back a little bit farther behind compared to like Serena, Garchomp, Machamp. I think those are much better all-rounders to play right now. Aegislash mobility is not the greatest. If you're having to use your Sacred Sword to get across the map, that's the wrong thing you need to be doing. You don't need to be playing Aegislash for that. Definitely need to keep an eye out for these other all-rounders and maybe start pivoting to those if you're an Aegislash main like I am. Beyond that, we have a bunch of attackers down here. I think Cramorant is fine. It's a solid A- Pokemon. It's gonna do its thing. Surf Hurricane's still really good. Cooldown dive builds kind of got nerfed because Air Slash also got nerfed, so you probably are just playing Surf Hurricane Cramorant anyway, and it's fine. I think Duraludon's hidden gem in this patch. One of the things Duraludon kind of struggled with is hitting those early spikes and kind of snowballing and kind of getting that ball rolling. But now that there's more experience, kind of just get to run things down. Duraludon feels really good right now. You could play like 3 red and a muscle band and go flash cannon, and you have fantastic secure. Nothing can walk in on you. If you're wanting to play like Dragon Pulse builds, that's also an option. So the fact that Duraludon's kind of whole kit is opened up to it now instead of just being the flash cannon secure Pokemon that it was in year 1, I think that's going to be good for Duraludon going forward. Mew is iffy. So Mew, if the person playing Mew knows how to play Mew, this Pokemon is an easy S 100% of the time. There are so many tricky things that you can do with Mew using its move resets and figuring out its cooldowns. The Light Screen Solar Beam thing is just nutty. I expect that to be nerfed soon. On the downside, there's people that switch moves maybe once a game, and those Mews are probably like an A- at best, right? It's such a weird Pokemon. I think after like I've played a ton with it, I think it's a good S tier pick right now. This is probably one of the more powerful Pokemon on release we've had in a while, but it's not broken. It's not Mr. Mime levels of broken. Mew is just good. Like, in the hands of a good player, Mew is going to carry games a lot of the time. Another one of these Pokemon that got a little bit of a changes that are still really good. I think Espeon is a solid A+. Probably right about here with Venusaur. Stored Power got a buff, but the fact that Espeon can just like make sure it hits its breakpoints much easier. One of the ways you beat these evolutions is if you can gatekeep them from experience by outlast hitting them, because that's the problem with these evolutions, is they last hit terribly. And so being able to make sure that you hit that level 4, make sure that you hit those breakpoints for Espeon, you can do that easier now, so Espeon's going to be better in my opinion. Pikachu, I know it's really cool. It's the mascot of the game. Like, everybody loves Pikachu. It's not good. You can still play it and get wins with it, but I think Pikachu's going to struggle offensively as the games get bulkier and get longer. I think overall Pikachu really struggles on this map in particular because you hit your breakpoints pretty early, and then you just don't really scale into the late game like the rest of these Pokemon do. Like, Duraludon is going to scale much better into team fights than a Pikachu does. Sylveon, I think Sylveon's a solid B. Hyper Voice stuff's cool, Mystical Fire stuff's cool. I'm not sure if you can still just spam Hyper Voice on repeat with the right cooldown builds like you were able to before, but still being able to just deal massive damage. This would probably be the one Eevee that could solo lane, like top lane solo, and probably get away with it. So if that becomes a thing, Sylveon stock might rise a little bit more. But overall, I think this is a fine place for Sylveon. B is right where it needs to be. Alolan Ninetales. I think this Pokemon sucks. I think this Pokemon is dog water. You you get a lot out of laning, and when you're not able to lane or bully people in lane, you don't have an advantage anymore. Your Unite move was really good for team fights. Those aren't really a thing anymore. One of the things I'm noticing is the Pokemon that can fight one-on-one or 1v2 are doing better in this game mode right now than the Pokemon that are team fight oriented, going to do their thing together with their team, go in all together and fight. And Ninetales is probably the worst offender of them all. Do I want to make any changes now that I have them all up here? Do I think anybody is better or worse? I think Gengar is better than Absol right now. I think Serena's better than Garchomp. I think Machamp's better than Garchomp. This seems right. This is fine. Do I want to move any of these guys around? I think Cinderace is solid A-. I think this can kind of move down. This can kind of move up. This can kind of move up. Do I want to move Charizard down? What do I think of Charizard? Is Charizard like T-Tar level? Like it'll see play? Probably. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, I'm locking this in. This is where we're at. Outside of the couple things that I don't own Cramorant and I don't own Absol, but I've seen enough of it be played that I can get a good grasp on where they should be probably. I think this is my definitive tier list on where things are at. A lot of my favorites, unfortunately, are down here in the C and D, so what I'm going to be doing probably later is trying to learn new Pokemon up here that I think are S and A tiers. And I encourage you all to do that too. If you all want to come and hang out in the Discord, link in the description, you can join me on my fun little learning quest as I learn some of these other Pokemon and kind of get better at them. But that's all I got today. I hope this you found this video entertaining, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, all that great stuff. And we will see you later in the week for some more Unite content. Bye, everyone.